Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Healthwise. Ever since the pandemic had started, people have started following numbers and statistics on the screen. They're used to seeing as to how many deaths occurred across the globe due to the pandemic. Every day there's a new number that raises an alarm in people, and as a result of that, they start following all sorts of precautions. But do we realize that every year, all across the globe, more than 1.3 million people die of road traffic accidents? Accidents that we take so for granted, and we don't even take the necessary precautions. That is why today in our studio we have invited two very young, handsome neurosurgeons who are going to explain in detail what these head injuries are, what spine injuries are, and how we need to manage them and protect them. Before we go up to them, let's watch a little small and brief description about head injuries and about spinal injuries, and then we go on to our guests.
A head injury is any trauma to the scalp, skull, or brain. The injury may be only a minor bump on the skull or a serious brain injury. Head injury can be either closed or open. A closed head injury means you receive a hard blow to the head from striking an object, but the object didn't break the skull. An open or penetrating head injury means you were hit with an object that broke the skull and entered the brain. This is more likely to happen when you move at high speed, such as going through the windshield during the car accident. Head injuries include concussion, in which the brain is shaken, and it is the most common type of traumatic brain injury. Scalp wounds and skull fractures follows. Head injuries may cause bleeding in the brain tissues or in the layer that surrounds the brain. A large number of people who suffer head injury are children. Traumatic brain injury account of over 1 in 6 injury relate hospital admissions every year. Some common causes of head injury include accidents at home, work, outdoors, or while playing sports, falls, physical assault, and traffic accidents. Most of these injuries are minor because the skull protects the brain. Some injuries are severe enough to require a stay in the hospital.
Welcome back. Let us welcome our guest today. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, sorry. Welcome back to the show. Let us welcome our esteemed guest today. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Alamgir Khan, and as well as Professor Saab, Assistant Professor Dr. Asad Javed. Dr. Alamgir, you're a squadron leader. We'll start with you. So can you please explain about road traffic accidents, their incidents, and how we can actually prevent them, and how we should go about? For example, we see ambulances on the street, we see people lying, and then we see a lot of other people on them trying to pull them, push them, fit them into the car that's available. So how should one manage it?
Thank you, madam. Road traffic accident, as the name indicates, is a very serious and dreadful situation. And as you already mentioned that per year more than 1.35 million people dies of road traffic accidents. And interestingly, 93% of road traffic accidents occur in low income and middle income countries.
Right.
Road traffic accidents may result in head injury, spinal injuries, orthopedic injuries, chest injuries, and abdominal injuries. But the most dreadful complication of road traffic accident is head injury and spinal injury.
And why is that? Because they use bikes more, they don't wear the helmet, they don't follow the rules. What would you attribute to it?
Exactly. Our population even don't know the importance of helmet.
Right.
They do not use seat belts, and they are not aware of the airbags,
Exactly.
that they are their protection. We are just using seat belts just to avoid challan from the traffic police.
Right.
But we have to inculcate in the minds of general
the
population that these are very important and these are for our safety.
So everybody I see around nowadays wears a mask and they're sanitizing their hands, but when it comes to using a car seat for their children or using a seat belt or using a helmet, they're just not as cautious, right?
Yeah,
so could you
exactly.
please explain, like if you see somebody on the street and somebody on the road has just suffered an accident, and if they have a head injury or a spine injury and we don't know, how should the public approach them? What should they do to them? Like leave them there or move them? Yeah.
Many injuries occur during the transportation of the patient.
Right.
Because we do not know and we have not the knowledge of shifting the patient, that how we can shift the patient. If a patient has head injury and he is unconscious, so he is also liable for the spine injuries, cervical spine is the most common area which can be damaged during transportation.
So
of
how
the
do you
patient.
shift them? You put in some kind of cardboard or
Yeah,
some board
cardboard,
under them
and
and
we
then
have
lift
to support
it?
the cervical spine, just like the ATLS protocol, that airway, breathing, circulation, and also care of the spine. All these things are very important for the transport.
But
of
the common man would not know airway, breathing and circulation. So for them, I would suggest like they don't lift the head or they don't
Yeah.
lift the legs all of a sudden, and
Exactly.
they don't cram the person into a small car.
Yeah.
They should wait with some kind of stretcher or some kind of board and then transport the person.
Exactly.
So Dr. Asad, what would you say about head injury and spine injury, and how many patients do you see every day with these, and how do you go about it?
Thank you very much for inviting here. As my colleague previously discussed about the head injury, that is the very leading and the cause of disability and death in our country as well as the developing nations, because usually we don't follow the protocols and the laws. That's why we get head injuries, and I mean there are more people, there are more deaths and disabilities due to the trauma as compared to the infectious diseases globally. So I mean we have to take some precautions to prevent it, because these are preventable causes of death. So by wearing masks and wearing the seat belts, we have to prevent it. And
You mean wearing the helmets and the
yeah,
seat belts?
of course.
We're already wearing the
Yeah.
mask. Yeah.
I mean, we have
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
But the people are more into not using these protocols. That's why when they get a head injury or spinal injury, mostly they become paralyzed or some kind of disability occurs for whole of their lives. So the management of the head injury and the spine injury, that start very from the side of injury.
Okay.
So if we teach the bystander and the common people how to manage before some emergency services arrive there, we have to educate them so that we can minimize the damage which had already been occurred. So by teaching the common people, bystanders,
So
we
if
can,
somebody has had a head injury, for instance, do we give them water? Like it's a common practice to give in water, so we shouldn't be giving them
we
water?
shouldn't be
Yeah.
giving anything through mouth. We have to stabilize the neck, we have to align the neck, we have to put some, even you don't have any thing with you, you can put two pieces of wood parallel to the head.
Okay, so
and-
anything parallel to the head,
parallel,
whatever you
yes.
have, cloth or
Exactly.
wood or whatsoever,
The-
and make sure that
yes.
it's just in
the
a
main
straight
objective
line.
is to immobilize the spine, because if there is some spinal injury and you are mobilizing it and you are doing flexion, extension or some lateral bending,
Right.
it will aggravate the injury.
So it's very,
first of
very
all,
important
yeah.
that you lay them straight and you
Exactly.
make sure that it doesn't move. You don't elevate their
Exactly.
legs. You don't elevate. And what about if they're vomiting some kind of blood or something? Do you turn their face
in
to the
case of
side?
that thing, you have
Yeah.
to prevent the aspiration. The things go into the lungs and the patient can develop aspiration
Right.
pneumonia.
So what's
you
the
have
best
to
way?
put the patient on side. Okay,
Oh.
that's the main thing. And the
Okay.
other thing is the moving of patient from the site of injury to the vehicle. That has a specific maneuver that is called log rolling, and which
Okay.
4 persons participate. One of them holds the neck and the head, other one they turn the torso, and they put the patient on a special bed that is called a spinal bed,
Right.
in which there is some kind of support along the head side. So there will be spinal immobilization and the proper handling of the patient.
Now, we don't have those kind of beds in our part of the world. So what we do is we try to educate the masses. And if you are on the street and you see something like this happen, make sure people are not moving them. And then what they do, one more thing, is that they don't take them to the doctor. Instead, they take them to the local pehelwan or the local, I don't know what you can say, fixator.
That's the response of our nation first, because we don't go to that proper treatment
Right.
and the professionals. We seek,
Yeah, sideways treatment also,
just
shortcuts.
to, shortcuts. That's why we bring and we
So we
take
have
our
more and
patient
more
to some-
disability.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. When unprofessional person is doing the thing, it will aggravate the injury, and the patient can get a more severe injury from a minor injury.
So
If
head
that-
injury, immediate, we are well aware of. What about concussion? That's a delayed response of head injury. For example, a child, not just road traffic accident, but a child fell off the stairs or something. Nothing happened to him as such at then, but later he developed some symptoms which you when you investigate, you find out that there was concussion. What is concussion? First, can you explain that?
Yeah.
And tell them what are those symptoms they should be very careful about?
There are basically different types of head injuries.
Okay.
We can classify it differently, just like closed head injuries and penetrating head injuries. On the other way, we can also classify primary head injuries and secondary head injury. In primary head injury, one of the time is concussion. In concussion, there are just physiological disruptions There is no anatomical
So when you say
disruption.
physiological, what do you mean? Like what is
Just
the person going
there
to
are,
feel?
Yeah, there are just the patient may feel amnesia. He might be having headache. He might be having dizziness. These are the symptoms of. He might be having vertigo. These are
Okay.
the different symptoms of concussion.
Okay.
But later on, it settles with times.
Okay.
These are concussion. Other injuries which may he sustain later on after the concussion, due to after some time, he may develop vomiting. He may lose his consciousness. He may develop post-traumatic fits.
So he has
Or
to look out for all of
all-
these. So
all these
basically
things.
headache, and then you said
Headache.
dizziness, then you said short-term memory loss, and as well as it could be vomiting, it could
Yeah.
be blackouts, it could be fainting. So if they have any of these symptoms, they don't delay it and they go
Yeah,
to a
they
neurosurgeon.
have to
And then
see-
what kind of investigations do you order to them?
If the patient have these symptoms, just like vomiting, severe headache, loss of consciousness, so he has to do a CT scan.
Okay.
CT scan brain. It's important. It's the gold standard investigation, and we will be able to know that whether he is having any intracranial hemorrhage, any skull fracture, or any other pathology because of
So if it's an intracranial hemorrhage, means that there is blood, it's accumulating inside. So how do you cure it? Like is there a surgery for it? What do you do for it?
there are different options.
Okay.
Depends upon the patient condition, which we measure on a scale which is called Glasgow Coma scale.
Okay.
It's for the conscious level of the patient. Depend upon the location of the injury and also amount of the bleed. All these things are important.
Okay.
If the amount of bleed is minimum and it's not causing any mass effect and it's not compressing upon the brain,
Right.
so we can manage it conservatively just by observing the patient and by monitoring him neurosurgically.
Okay.
And also we can give him medications to avoid intracranial pressures.
So the
and
point we take home over here is it's very important that you leave the patient in hospital care
Yeah.
instead of taking them
Yeah,
home,
it's
because a
important.
doctor has to continuously monitor what is going wrong with the patient and then can fix the patient.
Yeah.
So coming to Dr. Asad, thank you very much. Can you please tell us about spinal injuries and what are the kind of rehabs we have available for them? What is the post operative care, precautions, everything to do with that?
Well, I would like to add on my colleague discussion. I would say that the time is brain. We have to timely bring the patient to the proper professional to the hospital so that we can minimize the damage. As far as the spinal injuries are concerned, we have to manage them properly. We have to immobilize the spine during the transportation of the patient. And then the gold standard again, as in case of head injury, in case of spinal injury, yes, CT scan is the gold standard test,
Okay.
which will tell us about the bony structures which
Damaged.
had been damaged due to trauma. And if we want to see the soft tissues like disc or some like hematoma or contusion inside the spinal cord, we have to do an MRI cervical spine.
Okay.
Okay. Meanwhile, we have to stabilize the cervical spine. We can put a cervical traction, which is inserted in the head, and some weight is being attached with that string,
Right.
and it pulls the spine and it aligns the spine.
Okay.
So after assessing the injury, we have to stabilize the patient initially if he is in some kind of shock. Then we'll go for the definitive surgery, and it again depends upon the level of the injury.
So after the surgery, what
yeah.
are the precautions that they need to take? Can they move about like other people, or for how many days do they need to rest? And then after how many days can they start physiotherapy? Is it even suggested? Is it advised?
Just like head injury, where we categorize the head injury according to Glasgow Coma scale, there is a scale which is called American Spinal Injury Association scale, Asia scale.
Right.
According to that, we categorize the spinal injuries. It has 5 grades: A, B, C, and D, and E. So
Okay.
the worst grades are A, B, and C, and the later on they are incomplete injuries. Or in case of the severe injuries, we have to. The patient can be paralyzed for whole of his life. There are chances that he will come back to his normal routine, but least chances. So for those patients, the physiotherapy is started from the day first, because the paralyzed patient can, because he is lying on a bed, he can develop bed sores, he can develop chest
So how
infections.
important are the mattresses and the posture and
Exactly.
the alignment and all of this? What role
Exactly.
does it play?
They are, I would say they are the most important things in the management of a patient with a spinal injury. because most of the patient with a spinal injury, I mean, I have yesterday night I operated a spinal injury patient. The lady had a road traffic accident few weeks back, and then she had developed a bed sore in the gluteal region. So because she didn't use the air mattress.
So it's
we
very
have
important to
prevent-
use an air mattress or a water mattress and take care. There are rings as well available that you can place under, and you have to
Exactly.
keep changing the position of the
That's-
patient so that they don't develop bed sores, because then you'll have to manage two things at once.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
So we discussed injuries in detail, and now let's move on to another very interesting topic, and those are birth defects, because apparently, Dr. Saab, you have submitted a paper regarding the same as well. And birth defects are those defects that children are born with, and they are spinal defects, and you would be able to explain them in detail. What are the different birth defects?
Most common birth defects in neurosurgery are neural tube defects.
Okay.
And its incidence is 1 to 5 live births per 1 to 5 per thousand live births, and it increases with subsequent pregnancy.
All right.
And interestingly, most of the neural tube defects occur during first month of pregnancy,
Okay.
during which time the woman may not know that whether she is pregnant or not pregnant.
All right.
And most common neural tube defects are spina bifida and anencephaly.
Okay.
In spina bifida, the spinal column remains open,
Okay.
due to which the baby may develop a swelling midline on the
Right.
back.
Okay.
Sometimes there may be just a tuft of hairs,
Okay.
or skin discoloration, or
Okay.
even a dimple or a sinus.
Okay.
These are all the symptoms of
Types of
signs
spinal.
of spina bifida.
All right.
In anencephaly, the baby may not develop complete skull or parts of the brain, and most of these babies are born stillborn, or they die soon after delivery.
So can we find out this early on in the pregnancy? Is there a test to diagnose that so that the person doesn't have to go all the term, full term?
Anomaly scan, and we have to provide good antenatal care
Okay.
and scanning, just like the anomaly scan. We can diagnose it earlier in the pregnancy, and we can accordingly classify
Manage it.
it, and we can manage it accordingly.
Yeah, that is such a big blessing to be able to find out early in time and then manage it. And what are the ways to prevent it? I heard that folic acid deficiency
Yeah.
is a very leading cause of these birth defects. So how important is taking folic acid during pregnancy or even before getting pregnant? Or are there any more other reasons, like for some teratogenic drugs can cause it? What else causes these?
Folic acid is one of the known causes
Okay.
that are causing these birth defects. But other contributing causes may be uncontrolled diabetes,
Okay.
morbid obesity, and some medication, just like anti-epileptic drugs, that contributes to the development of these
So you have to
birth
be very
defects.
careful if somebody who is on epileptic drugs, if a mother has epilepsy, then their pregnancy has to be really monitored. And see, obesity, we keep mentioning it every day almost, and who would know that obesity, being obese, is actually going to affect your baby in the long run. So coming to you, Dr. Asad, there's another very common problem in people. It's called carpal tunnel syndrome, where they have this tingling and numbness and all that. Can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, carpal tunnel syndrome, as the name indicates, there is a tunnel inside the wrist area, which is made by the carpal bones, and it is overlaid by a ligament. So a few things passes through that tunnel, and one of them is a nerve which is called a median nerve. So in few conditions, like if the patient is diabetic, if the patient is hypothyroid, having the hypothyroidism, or the patient is obese, mostly in females during pregnancy, the canal can be stenosed, and the patient can develop tingling sensation, especially in thumb and the two fingers. So mostly the symptoms occur at night, and the patient have to wake up from the sleep, and he have to shake the hand, which gives relief to the patient. These are the very typical and very suggestive
And what is the
finding.
treatment other than the splint and all that?
I
Is
mean,
there a-
it depends upon the etiology. If the
Okay.
patient is having diabetes, if the patient is pregnant, if the
Right.
patient is having a thyroid problem, we have to manage the primary problem. So by managing it, the patient will get relief.
Okay.
And if the patient don't have such a pre-morbid, then we have to give him or her some kind of medications, okay? And we have to splint the wrist, because motion at the wrist, it
For
aggravates the
how
problem.
long do you splint the wrist? You
It
apply
depends
that splint?
upon the patient condition, because the disease has three main categories.
Okay.
Depending upon
But
that.
it is curable.
I mean,
Right.
it's curable, yes.
What about sciatica, another very common complaint in our part of the world?
Yes, exactly. Sciatica, I mean, I would call it a degenerative disease.
Okay.
With aging process, the person develop some kind of degeneration inside the disc. Disc is a structure which is between the two vertebrae.
Yeah.
And so mostly this degeneration occurs at the lower spinal level in the lumbar region, especially at L4-5 and L5-S1 region. So I mean, if the patient is having high weight, increased weight, is obese, and he's diabetic, he's not taking some routine exercise, and mostly the office workers and the drivers, they get this problem usually.
So what about, how much do you attribute this bad posture, sitting in the chair all the time, watching television and all that, to all these spinal problems?
Yes.
Because a lot of people are coming up with these lumbar problems these days, a lot of back pain, decompression and all that. So while we, just before we depart, I would like both of you to give a message out to our audience regarding, alignment and head care and all of this, so that they know what they should follow. So we start with you and then you.
Posture is very important, as Dr. Asad explained it very well. We have to sit on the chair at 90 degrees.
Okay.
There should be no incline. If there is incline, there are chances of back pain, and it will, at the end, definitely will lead to disc prolapse.
Okay.
Also, during traveling, while driving, or even starting exercise, before going to heavy weightlifting or running or anything else, we have to warm up our body.
Okay.
Just by starting the exertional activities at once, it may lead to disc prolapse. All these are the causes.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, Dr. Asad.
I would like to add on the comments. By sitting in a proper posture, by keeping your back straight, that's the one thing. And by lifting the weight, when you lift the weight, mostly
Bend your
our figure,
knees.
bend your knees and keep your the back straight, and then lift the weight. Mostly our people do they go down and just become a
Right. Thank you
structure
so
like
much.
a G.
Thank you both of you. So you've heard it from them. You have to sit straight and then you look as smart as they do, and you will not have problems like back pain and all the other associated problems. Thank you so much for watching. See you next in our next episode, inshallah. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.